Hello Zyy'nai of planet Earth, my name is Zyy'nai Quotes. And in this episode we're going to go over quotes by the Zyy'nai. A great way to understand the mind of a certain mojo and also understand the story of a certain mojo is to listen to some quotes that were actually spoken by that mojo. This is a great way to understand their story, understand kind of how they are actually coming at life and the things that they go through and overcome. You're going to be noticing a lot of reoccurring themes. And so this is a great way to actually get into the minds of the Zyy'nai mojo or any other mojo when you read quotes that are by them, because these are nuggets of wisdom that they actually had to teach themselves, things that they had to overcome, things that they actually had to learn on their own, and now they actually want to share these nuggets of truth with the rest of the world. So it's a great way to learning a lot about a certain mojo. So let's get into some of these. Our first quote is by Natalie Batalha. Like dark matter in the universe, love is the mysterious yet omnipresent entity, the everything we know nothing about, and we are the 5% being carried afloat by its influence. Terry Bradshaw has said, "You've got to stand up and do your own battles. My daddy taught me a long time ago that you fight your own battles. The only way to shut everybody up is to win. I always wanted everyone to like me. I wanted the city of Pittsburgh to be proud of me, but my first few seasons I could count the number of people on my bandwagon on one finger. You find out in life that people really like you funny, so what do you give them? Humor. And then if you show them the other side, they don't like you as much. I find too that I can hide behind the idiot's mask being funny, and you never see the sorrow or pain." Here are some quotes by Phyllis Diller. "Never go to bed mad. Stay up and fight. I want my children to have all the things I couldn't afford. Then I want to move in with them. My photographs don't do me justice. They just look like me. We spend the first 12 months of our children's lives teaching them to walk and talk, and then the next 12 telling them to sit down and shut up. My recipe for dealing with anger and frustration: set the kitchen timer for 20 minutes, cry, rant, and rave, and then at the sound of the bell, simmer down and go about business as usual." Quotes by Mike Ditka. "You're never a loser until you quit trying. Before you can win, you have to believe you're worthy. Success isn't permanent and failure isn't fatal. If you are determined enough and willing to pay the price, you can get it done." Quotes by Melinda Gates. "The premise of this foundation is one life on this planet is no more valuable than the next. Our role is to take risks that, if they pay off, could give millions of people a chance to make the most of their lives. Bill and I believe that all lives, no matter where they live, have equal value. And we want to make sure that everyone on this planet has a chance to live a healthy and productive life." Quotes by Debora Gordon. "Every time a scientist publishes a good piece of work, she helps to maintain and raise the standards for what is true. We have to keep chipping away." Quotes by Andrea Jung. "If you feel like it's difficult to change, you'll probably have a harder time succeeding." Quotes by Khloe Kardashian. "Pretty words are not always true, and true words are not always pretty." Quotes by Ariana Huffington. "Mainstream media tends to just mouth the conventional wisdom, to see everything through the filter of left and right. But you have to do what you dream of doing even while you're afraid. Fearlessness is like a muscle. I know from my own life that the more I exercise it, the more natural it becomes to not let my fears run me. The economic game is not supposed to be rigged like some shady ring toss on a carnival midway. We need to accept that we won't always make the right decisions, that we'll screw up royally sometimes, understanding that failure is not the opposite of success, it's part of success." Quotes by Rachel Maddow. "Here's the thing about rights. They're not supposed to be voted on. That's why they call them rights. Rich people being really rich, that alone does not give you a strong economy or a strong nation. That can just be feudalism with cable. I love being on radio. Being paid to talk, it's like being paid to eat. People are not poor because they think it sounds like a great idea. People are poor because they don't have any other opportunities. We need to raise as many boats as we can. Helping out rich people was a theory that we tried. It didn't help anybody else except rich people." Quotes by Mary McAleese. "People with disabilities have abilities too, and that's what this course is all about. making sure those abilities blossom and shine so that all the dreams you can have come true. The extent to which all people in our society are made to count and believe that they count is not just a measure of decency, it makes sound economic sense. It's important that we do not complacently assume that economic success and social disparity inevitably go hand in hand. Quotes by Bette Midler. Cherish forever what makes you unique, because you're really a yawn if it goes. I bear no grudges, I've a mind that retains nothing. I married a German. Every night I dress up as Poland and he invades me. Group conformity scares the pants off me because it's so often a prelude to cruelty towards anyone who doesn't want to or can't join the big parade. When it's 3 o'clock in New York, it's still 1938 in London. I haven't left my house in days. I watch the news channels incessantly. All the news stories are about the election, and all the commercials are Viagra and Cialis. Election, erection, election, erection. Either way, we're screwed. I didn't belong as a kid, and that always bothered me. If only I'd known my differentness would be an asset, then my earlier life would have been much easier. Find your light. They can't love you if they can't see you. It's the heart afraid of breaking that never learns to dance. It's the dream afraid of waking that never takes the chance. It's the one who won't be taken, who cannot seem to give, and the soul afraid of dying that never learns to live. Quotes by Anne Macaulay. When you have that window of opportunity called a crisis, move as quickly as you can, get as much done as you can. There's a momentum for change that's very compelling. Quotes by Indra Nooyi. Leadership is hard to define, and good leadership even harder. But if you can get people to follow you to the ends of the earth, you are a great leader. The distance between number 1 and number 2 is always a constant. If you want to improve the organization, you have to improve yourself, and the organization gets pulled up with you. That's a big lesson. I cannot just expect the organization to improve if I don't improve myself and lift the organization, because that distance is a constant. As a leader, I'm tough on myself and I raise the standard for everybody. However, I'm very caring because I want people to excel at what they're doing so that they can aspire to be me in the future. Quotes by Rosie O'Donnell. The equality that we're all entitled to as citizens of this democracy can't be avoided by some religious dogma of a president who's supposed to believe in the notion of separation of church and state. And frankly, he doesn't. When you're silent, it's as good as lying. Quotes by Lisa Randall. In the history of physics, every time we looked beyond the scales and energies we were familiar with, we found things that we wouldn't have thought were there. It's hubris to think that the way we see things is everything there is. Although I was first drawn to math and science by the certainty they promised, today I find the unanswered questions and the unexpected connections at least as attractive. When people try to use religion to address the natural world, science pushes back on it, and religion has to accommodate the results. Belief can be permanent, but belief can also be flexible. Personally, if I find out my belief is wrong, I change my mind. I think that's a good way to live. Speculation and exploration of ideas beyond what we know with certainty are what leads to progress. I think it's a problem that people are considered immoral if they're not religious. That's just not true. If you do something for religious reason, you do it because you'll be rewarded in an afterlife or in this world. That's not quite as good as something you do purely for generous reasons. Quotes by Joan Rivers. I knew I was an unwanted baby when I saw that my bath toys were a toaster and a radio. I blame my mother for my poor sex life. All she told me was the man goes on top and the women underneath. For 3 years, my husband and I slept in bunk beds. Quotes by Agapi Stasinopoulos. Into your darkest corner, you are safe in my love. You are protected. I am the openness you seek. I am your doorway. Come sit in the circular temple of my heart and let yourself be calm. Be generous with your heart. The more we spontaneously give, the more connected and enriched we will feel. What if we use each other as our living temples and put our best offering foot forward to see what direction life points us? I believe that if we live in a state of offering, even if we think we have nothing to offer, life blesses us and we feel more at peace with who we are and who we have. No matter who you are, you have a giant self. Quotes by Donald Trump. Part of being a winner is knowing when enough is enough. Sometimes you have to give up the fight and walk away and move on to something that's more productive. I try to learn from the past, but I plan for the future by focusing exclusively on the present. That's where the fun is. It's always good to be underestimated. As long as you're going to be thinking anyway, think big. If you're interested in balancing work and pleasure, stop trying to balance them. Instead, make your work more pleasurable. Without passion, you don't have energy. Without energy, you have nothing. Quotes by Ivanka Trump. Enthusiasm and drive can certainly compensate for experience. At least they can fill some of the gaps that come with inexperience. The biggest, boldest visionaries, they're the ones who seem to be operating in overdrive, the ones overflowing with enthusiasm. The opportunities are there, and all you have to do is get past a few hurdles to grab them. Quotes by Ventura. I speak my mind. If it offends some people, well, there's not much I can do about that. But I'm going to be honest. I'm going to continue to speak my mind, and that's who I am. Remember something, if you will, about voting. Voting is not a horse race. You're not going there thinking, gee, I gotta pick the winner so I can brag to my friends, oh, I picked so-and-so, and he or she won. Voting is voting your heart and voting your conscience. And when you've done that, don't ever let a Democrat or Republican tell you that you've wasted your vote, because the fact is, if you don't vote your heart and conscience, then you have wasted your vote. I asked the Dalai Lama the most important question that I think you could ask, if he had ever seen Caddyshack. Our government has the weirdest bias against cannabis. There's no reason for everybody to be so afraid of it. It's not the Antichrist the DEA makes it out to be. Industrial hemp is a very useful plant. I challenged the Attorney General to get rid of the criminal stigma associated with hemp so we can look at it in terms of how it might be useful. And government has no business telling us what we can and can't do for pain relief. War isn't civilized. War is failure. It's the ultimate result of a breakdown in public policy, and soldiers are the machines that handle that breakdown. In warfare, you're taught to do whatever you have to do to stay alive. Hope you enjoyed some of those nuggets of wisdom by our Zyy'nai friends. Know yourself, grow yourself, and save the world.